Hello everybody and welcome to Common Running Mistakes. My name is Dr. Cameron Garber and I am here with Preston Johnson, and we are about to talk to you about one of the common running mistakes we see and one that Preston is pretty involved with. So why don't you introduce it for us?
Yeah, so we're going to talk today about why we miss our workouts. And a lot of that comes back to your accountability and your motivation to be able to get out and run.
Yeah.
And so I deal a lot with this in both my professional career and as a runner. Yeah. By hosting group runs, teaching clinics, trying to motivate people to get out and get active.
Right.
And so one of my recent adventures with that has been with the Wasatch Run Club. Really trying to create a safe atmosphere in a place where people can get the resources they need to be able to get out and train, and then provide a place for them to train by providing training partners of all levels, all the way from people that are just barely starting, all the way up to the elite athlete in the area.
Right, and so we just feel that that's a really important thing, that having some kind of accountability partner or program, some way to help keep you going and motivated. And there's three main areas that we have talked about that really are important areas of having some kind of accountability partner or group or whatever. And one is having an accountability partner, so one person or a couple of people that are assigned to be your accountability partner that help keep you going and motivated and staying on the road. The other is a clinician or coach that can help keep you motivated, keep you going, and kind of take that 3,000 foot view of seeing the whole big picture and help you out. And then the other is a group, some kind of group training program or group that you can run with that helps keep you motivated. And so those three groups we're going to talk about and kind of compare and contrast the pros and cons of each. So Preston, you're pretty involved with running groups.
Yeah.
Tell us what some of the pros and cons there are.
Yeah, some of my background, first off, I worked with Utah Running and I helped launch the Utah Running Club. And then I took a job with Solomon in their community marketing department, putting on all of their sponsored events and run clubs in the area.
Yeah.
And then, like I mentioned earlier, the Wasatch Run Club.
Yeah.
So I've kind of been through several different scenarios and almost seen it all when it comes to group runs. And group runs are very beneficial in that they're very fun, they're very engaging, they're very social atmosphere type things. And you're always going to have someone at your pace if it's a good group.
Right.
Because generally, there's quite a few people there.
Yeah.
And chances are you're going to have someone to run with, unless Usain Bolt shows up. There's not going to be people running with him. But,
yeah, probably not.
But it's a great atmosphere to be able to get out, and they're usually pretty consistent, so you're always going to have that group to rely on.
Right.
To be able to show up and be able to get your workout in and keep yourself accountable that way.
Right, makes it fun, good atmosphere, and honestly, runners are a great group of people. Like, every running event I go to, I'm like, man, these are just good people, and so it's fun to kind of get exposed to a broad variety of different runners, and so groups are just fun.
Yeah, and with groups generally you have access to things you don't have alone either. So for instance, with the Wasatch Run Club, we have air relaxed compression boots after the runs people use to recover. We generally have like popsicles or some kind of a treat after.
Yeah, it makes it fun.
Encourage people to stay around and socialize and make more than just a running group, but really just a close-knit group of friends that get together and are willing to work hard for a common goal.
Yeah, it becomes a social event and makes it fun and rewarding, and so to keep that in the mix of your running, to participate in a group every so often, makes it really fun and keeps it lighthearted and not so heavy. Sometimes we get in a training cycle and it gets really heavy and really like burdensome almost to go on your runs, and so having that kind of break up in your weekly training cycle really is nice and helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And we do want to mention that there are a few downfalls to each of these groups, and we want to make sure we point those out so you can plan accordingly in your training plans. And so one of the major downfalls that we do see with group runs is it's not very individualized. It's one workout for a wide range of people, ranging all the way from people that want to be super competitive to people that are just out there to run and enjoy the group. And so as far as relying on that as your primary source of a hard workout, or as your constant hard run, unless you know that you're going to have people there, they're going to be around your ability level, and that the workouts are pretty close to what you're training for. Because again, even workouts can vary depending on what race you're training for. If you're training for a marathon versus a 5K, those are two very different training plans there. And they're going to be shown to hopefully have a good coach involved and be able to be tailored to one or the other of those groups.
Yeah. And so just be careful with a group. I would say if you are doing a group run, try to find people around your same level. Don't ever feel pressure to keep up with the group or anything like that. Most groups are pretty good about letting people all go run at their own pace, and then you kind of meet up at the end. And so if it's a 8-mile group run and you only feel like going 6, that's fine. Just go 6 and, you know, turn around, come back and meet them at the trailhead. That's fine. So just feel free, even though you're going with the group, to kind of do it at your own pace and your own distance and things like that, so that you don't wind up turning a group run into an injury or a problem, right?
Yeah, never let peer pressure be a reason for doing something. Your training is your training, and your body ultimately knows what it needs. And if it's not matching up with what's going on that day, don't be afraid to do something different. No one's going to judge you. Everyone understands that running is a very individual thing, and they've all been there too, so they know what's going on.
For sure. So I would recommend reaching out to Preston's group, actually, the Wasatch Run Club. They have a fun time. We've seen up to like 40, 50 people there, 60 people there before. Like
our max
huge
was
groups.
Just over 80.
Wow.
That's a ton of people on the trails. I mean, I
Which
guarantee
is
you have
awesome.
someone to run with out there.
So
and
fun.
it's a blast. I mean, we were always just hanging out after talking and getting to know each other. And it's a very inviting group. So even if you're new, just come on out.
Yeah, so if you're in the area around kind of Weber, Davis counties here in Utah, and you can travel from further if you want to, but yeah, we'd love to have you out for those. They're fun to participate in. So another area then is those accountability partners, so having like a running partner. Big pros there are you can find somebody that really matches up with you well, right? Somebody that runs about the same pace, same distances. You can set a together goal of like, we're both going to go run St. George. My wife and her running partner, they do their long runs together and sometimes runs during the week, but they always do their long runs together on like Fridays or Saturdays, and they train for St. George most years, sometimes other races, but St. George is usually the one, and then Boston as well. And so having that training partner is great. So some of the things she usually tells me about why she loves working with her training partner Jen is that it gets her out of bed in the morning on a Saturday morning when you're tired and you probably stayed up too late anyway because your husband wanted to watch a movie or something like that. Gets her up and out of bed and kind of a no excuses reason to get up and so that's really helpful. This guy's revving his engine just for fun, I think. The other advantages are you can have somebody that kind of watches out for you, helps keep you safe, other things like that when you're on your runs. So that's always a bonus.
Yeah, when comparing this one back to the group runs, I think the biggest change we're going to see here is it's very individualized. It's just you and one other person, or maybe 2 or 3 other people, very small group.
Right.
And so like Dr. Garber said, having somebody that's not afraid to just call you in the morning when you're having a lazy morning, don't want to get out of bed, and just encourage you to get out and come to the workout is huge. We all have those days where running is not what we want to be doing, or we want to put it off for as long as we can. And the best way to be able to get on with our day and be able to feel productive is just to get it out of the way. And so having someone that's there to help you on those tough days is going to be huge, especially, we're talking about how to never miss a workout. They're always going to be there for you. With running with, your partner, your accountability partner, again, with the group runs, we talked about how never to fall to peer pressure. It can be the same thing. Even if there's someone you're training with that is at the same level as you, you're not always feeling good, or you're not always feeling at the same level every day. And I think just having an open communication line where you're open with each other and not afraid to say, today I'm just not feeling it. And so I may need to go a little bit slower, take it as a recovery day. And if it means for that day, they're running a little bit in front of you, that's totally fine. The purpose of that that small group is still served, and that you're both out there together, training and getting ready for whatever it is you're training for.
And they got you out the door, right?
Yeah.
And so that's okay, again, to run at different times. You don't necessarily have to make it social hour, and sometimes that's another downfall of running with a running partner. Sometimes it becomes more social than physical. And so it just depends on what your goals are. If your goals for running are just to maintain your fitness and to enjoy it and be healthy and have fun, great. Then that's not necessarily a problem. But if you are specifically training for a race and you want to, improve your performance and stuff, then sometimes that can get in the way a little bit. If it becomes more about social hour and what our kids did and what our blah blah blah, the drama in our personal lives, sometimes that can get in the way of a training program.
That brings up an important point, I think, that we didn't discuss before, but I think is very appropriate to bring up, is these 3 different groups could also be more beneficial or less beneficial for you based on what your goals are.
Oh yeah, big time.
And this is a topic that we've been talking quite a bit about in the Body Smart Book Club with a book that we're reading. And throughout the book, there's been this common theme and this common agreement that we don't necessarily agree with the things that he's saying. And our realization has more or less been that, maybe his goals aren't what our goals are. And so maybe he is looking for more body composition, we're looking for more performance. And so the same can be said with your group runs, whether it's an individual or a training group. And I think it varies case to case. Like sometimes, a training group may be better for your goals, whereas in other cases, running with just one-on-one with someone else might be better for your goals. So,
really
assess
does.
that as well, and make sure your goals are clear, and make sure those are portrayed to the people that you're training with.
Yeah, for sure. If your goal is more just getting in the habit of running groups can be really awesome. If your goal is to PR, your next race, a running group maybe not the right stimulus to push you. It just depends on what run they're doing that day. So it really depends on what your goals are, and there's a way to kind of work all of them in. So the third category was finding a coach or a mentor or a clinician that can help kind of guide you through your fitness journey, through your running journey, and can help kind of have that 3,000 foot view of everything that's going on that isn't necessarily personally involved with your running, but can take a look and see what pros and cons, positives and negatives there are in your training plan, and can help you kind of think through, navigate through, and keep you healthy.
As an athlete, especially if you're highly motivated, you're one that's eager to get out every day, you're always trying to add more on, you're always going the extra mile.
Sorry.
I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so you're doing those things. Sometimes that clinician, that coach is kind of the person, they play the role of keeping you in check. And so especially, if you're pushing through for a big race and, they see that you need to back down, they can tell you that without having the bias of being yourself and knowing that like, oh, I want to work as hard as I can to get ready for this. When someone looking from the outside in doesn't have that bias of being the one in that situation, and so they can look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and be able to give you a better opinion on what can be done there.
I mean, so we do that a lot with your training, I feel like, where I kind of pull back on the reins every so often and I'm like, okay, and vice versa. I think you give me really good input and feedback as to where you're at so that you can have the optimal result. I mean, the goal is to help you progress as much as possible. And so being able to have kind of someone that understands training principles and knows how to progress you along well as understands injury and what leads to injury and problems, so that you can have kind of that voice in your head, I guess, that is telling you kind of what to and not to do to be successful. I think that really is important. Finding that right person is a very individual thing and may change from time to time. Sometimes you may need more of a coach and sometimes you may need more of a clinician. Somebody that can help you battle through injuries or other things like that and stay healthy while you're recovering. Sometimes you need somebody that understands the performance aspects of things. In an ideal world, we'd find somebody that can do both. I think those types of things, though, are important to find the right kind of team around you. And so that I think those are kind of the factors of teams. One problem with this member of the team, with a clinician especially, is they're going to tell you to stop running way too often. Clinicians tend to do that too much. And we talked about, in fact, in our last episode, why running through pain sometimes is not a bad thing and is kind of a good thing. And so be careful sometimes with the advice that you get. Always weigh that and have multiple sounding boards to bounce things off of, I would say, to where you can get a good opinion that is unbiased or is based in sound logic and science and things, so that you can make sure you're getting the most benefit. So create that team. And I think that team can include, like I said, a coach and a clinician, a running partner, as well as a running group, and building that personal team for you, finding the right group, the right partner, and the right clinical and coaching team, huge. And when you get that all together, that's where you're going to have the most success as a runner long term. Be able to build those habits, turn those habits into a love for running, and turn that love for running into being able to be competitive, at least with yourself, if not with other people as well.
Yeah, I think a mixture of all three of those things is great for any athlete, no matter what level you're at. I find that my training schedule is vastly different than the average runner. I'm training, a lot higher volumes and a lot higher speed than most runners out there. And I still see value in each one of those, even for in a group run. Typically I'm slowing down a little bit, but it's keeping me accountable for some of my easier runs and keeping my runs in check. And so no matter how you utilize those group runs, whether it be using someone to motivate you to go faster, or pulling back on the reins a little bit, they all have their own benefits, no matter what type of runner you are, no matter where you're at in your career. And so I encourage you all to find something in your area, whether it's my group, the Wasatch Run Club, or any other group. Find a clinician or a coach or someone you can bounce your ideas off of, and then try to find someone that you can go on individual runs with as well.
Somebody that'll get your butt out of bed in the morning.
Open for applicants for myself. I need that. So.
It's good to have those different aspects and those different partners. So hopefully that all makes sense and helps in your running and preparing for you to have the most success of meeting your personal running and fitness goals. So thanks so much for joining Common Running Mistakes series. We love to bring it to you here from Body Smart and from Wasatch Run Club. Thanks again.
Thank you.